I usually never talk about what I am about to talk about. My reason for this is because what I am about to talk about makes me feel drastically weird, and it makes me feel especially weird telling it to a group of pretty much strangers. Though, in and of itself, what I am about to tell you is not weird at all. While it may be a little sad, it is very amazing too. And so, although I feel very weird now, I know I'll feel very much less weird once I am done explaining to you how and why it is so amazing. It was the summer of 2015. I was 15 years old, and at that time in my life, I had begun to experience these random feelings of sadness that most teenagers usually do begin to experience at such a developmental stage. That kind of sourceless sadness which comes about when you think about whether or not you really are happy and find yourself not completely fulfilled, or just by tricking yourself into believing you're not happy because you've spent so much time wondering whether or not you are really happy and not enough time being content with your happiness. So I think it's safe to say that I was a weird, sad little teenager in 2015. Though I accepted this sadness as it was a part of me, and I knew of no way to reject it. It just came and went and came and went. The particular beginning of this story starts as I lay asleep down in my room in the basement of my home, probably sometime before 8 a.m. Now, during the last bit of time I spent asleep, I had a dream. And this dream started just like any normal dream, weirdly, with no clear meaning, just a subconscious escape I had subconsciously created and placed myself into, or so I would then think. I stood upright atop a white birchwood raft on a sea of black-blue water engulfed in thick white fog. The dream itself felt very real, as dreams do. I remember blinking, and knowing that I was blinking, I clenched my hands, unclenched them, feeling the release, and looked out at the fog. I waited for some time, just by myself. I remember feeling like something ought to be happening, or that something soon was going to happen, something drastic and unavoidable. And even though this was just a dream and I had no real meaning to anticipate such a thing, I felt this nonetheless. And eventually something did happen. A very good friend of mine emerged from the water at the base of the raft. Now, secretly, I had very strong feelings for this friend. I thought she was amazing, purely unique, and one of the most kind people I have ever known. And I could go on and on talking about her, but for the sake of this talk, I'll leave it at that. She gasped for air as though it was real life. I went to where she held on to, and I noticed immediately that she was crying, not sobbing uncontrollably or anything like that, but clearly very sad about something. I remember I kept saying her name over and over, hoping that she would notice me, but to no avail. She emitted a certain air of silence along with her sadness, which made me feel as though maybe I was invisible to her, or maybe that she thought I couldn't see her. Though I know now, and don't ask me how, that we really were in the same dream, two minds, one dream. There are no set of words that I could use to explain how this is so. It is only my belief that makes this certain. So, eventually, I stopped talking as I realized it was doing absolutely nothing at all. And with this, she quieted down too. And tears still rolled down her face, but she seemed much more calm. It was then that I kneeling down, her still holding on, we stared each other in the eyes in silence. And I don't know how long we did this for, but I remember as I looked at her that it felt like we could be doing this for forever. And in truth, I did not really care if that turned out to be the case, for forever was only forever, and in the same manner as the sun rising only to quickly set, it would be over, we would wake up and come to see each other in the following weeks. So with this thought of forever, I felt time speed up again and dwindle. and my friend sensed this too. So, unexpectedly, my friend pulled herself up slightly from the raft and kissed me, and I closed my eyes, as that is what I knew one was supposed to do during a kiss. I was in shock that she had decided to kiss me, as I would have kissed her really any day. It informed me in that moment that maybe she had feelings towards me too. Maybe not the same kind of love, but of the same passion and intensity. And so, like I said, as my eyes were closed, I smiled. And without being able to see her own smile, I felt it form, and I knew at that moment that she had come to peace with her sadness. When I opened my eyes, she had vanished. I wondered whether she had gone back into the water or out into the fog or up into the sky. I waited there for some time longer, hoping for her to return, but she never did. And so, with nothing but my own isolation, I willed myself awake and laid in my bed for a few more minutes. I can remember this funny, giddy feeling I had after that dream. I felt very refreshed and new, despite that this kiss was just in a dream. I thought I might mention to my friend that she was in a dream of mine. I wouldn't mention the kiss, of course, but I thought I might mention that, "Oh, you were in a dream of mine." It was super weird. Yeah, you came up out of the water crying, and I went to comfort you, but it was like I was invisible. Eventually, I shut up, and you seemed to notice me through my silence. And then I smiled, and you smiled, and like magic, we were happy. With it being a day of summer, with nothing else to do, no plans yet, I began to wander upstairs to get some breakfast. My mother was in the kitchen pouring coffee. She asked me if I wanted any, and I said yes. She then asked me if I had any plans for the day, and I think I said something along the lines of, "I'm not sure yet. I'm going to text my friends and see if any of them are around." Now, as I mentioned to my friends, my mother grew unsettled, though she seemed unsure whether or not she should be unsettled. She asked me if I had heard any news. I had not. Curious as to what this news might be, I asked her why. What happened? She took a short, deep breath in. Silence built up all around her and I. Then, as carefully as my mother could, she told me my friend had died. She told me my friend had drowned. That made no sense at all to me. So I waited silently for an explanation, recalling the dream in my head. She told me a younger friend of mine had told an older friend of mine, who in turn told her, knowing of my relationship with my now supposedly dead friend. I still didn't believe it. I foolishly stated that neither of them knew absolutely nothing of what they were talking about, that they were either drunk or had bought into some sick rumor for some stupid reason. Though I also knew deep down that these friends of mine would never lie about such a thing. I went into a pre-shock state, trying to keep myself safe from this supposable piece of truth. I began to make my way back to my room, my mother following behind me. I went into my room, picked up my phone, and immediately sent a text to my supposedly dead friend. I sent her a text which said, "Hey, what's up?" I noticed then that she had sent me a good night text just 2 nights prior, though my internet had shut off before I ever received it. I didn't see it until just then. I always wonder what would have happened if I said goodnight. And so, as I waited and mutely prayed for her response, I was bombarded with an assortment of messages from a group chat with all my friends in it but the one who was dead. And sure enough, it was true. My friend had drowned, and all my other friends were broken. But to hell with the truth, I thought. The truth was stupid and brittle and fake. She's not dead, I screamed and cried, harder than I had ever cried before, being hurt by reality, but nothing at all tangible or inflictive. I kept trying to convince myself that everything I was experiencing was not real. This was just a prolonged, insanely realistic dream, though I knew, too, that this was not so. And so I cried, and my mother comforted me. All the while, I didn't really want to be comforted at all. With each tear that came out of my eyes, I lost more and more of my youth and happiness. I wished, more than anything, that at the next close of my eyes, my entire life would restart. I did not care if fate were to take the same course in my restarted life. I wanted only the opportunity to be with my friend again. Days passed, and with each one I grew a little more sad. It was then that I realized there was nothing at all worth living for in life but to live and to love someone who you love. That was about it. And the one who I had loved had died. And I didn't know how to accept that as I could my random experiences of sadness. Quickly, months had gone by. I'd reached a point of sadness that I have never surpassed. I was numb and disconnected. I went through my life experiencing highs and lows, laughter and then silence, which became much worse than the action of crying. Though, in this time of silence, I began to ask myself some questions. Questions like, why is there such a thing as death? And is there another world after death? Is there a world of life in death? And don't get excited, because like many before me, I do not know the answer to any of these. Though, after a few more years of being alive and musing over my experience, I have come to form somewhat of a hypothesis. It is this, roughly. If we have form and image, our body, and evoke sensations unto the world and all we come across, then in death we must do the same. For if there is life in death, whatever kind of hidden and indecipherable life it may be, we are still bound to the same sensations that we possessed when we were alive. The only difference between life and death is that in death we do not have an image, as death is the zenith of life. Just because my friend is no longer with me does not mean that I cannot still love her and that she cannot still send me feelings and sensations of love from the realm of death. After many years of viewing my dream as what turned my life into an undescribable nightmare, I concluded at last that this was not so. My dream was the greatest moment of my life. For without that dream, I would have never known if my friend ever really, really loved me. I would still be sad. I would have still slipped into numbness. She would have still slipped away. And I might have never came out of that numbness. Thus, in my eyes, I solved the ultimate point of living. Live each day with the one you love, no matter whether they are alive or dead. Live each day as though you were paired with that one you love, as though they were right by your side. For you can live without the image of someone and still feel the sensation of their presence. Act just as you would act towards the one you love, to everyone. Live a life in such a way so that when you die, you can recall, before the moment of your death, that there was at least one person who you loved and who loved you in return, who will most likely grieve like mad for a long, long time, wishing for your image to return miraculously. Make it so everyone wants you to come back to life. Love and only love, and people will wish just that. Love and love and love and love. Let it build up inside you. And then at the moment of your death, you will turn immortal, for you will be only love. And the love we wish to give does not die with us. No. It will overflow and resurge from the realm of death through those who mourn us. Then, when those mourners accept that you are finally gone, they will go on living life loving. Don't be afraid that someday you will experience the end stage of life, death. Don't be afraid that you might be sent to a hell, and don't expect to be sent to any heaven or any in-between, because being afraid creates no love at all, and expecting usually only proves to disappoint, all the while wasting time and creating no love. My point is just love. Love and love and love and love. Someday, yes, you will die. But that does not mean you will not live on somehow in the hearts of those who you have loved and who have loved you. So, stop thinking of yourself as just this image in this body. We're all little bits of sensation. And so I ask you, why not be the greatest sensation? Love. That's all we need. Thank you.